Every part of the earth is sacred to my people. Every shining pine needle, every sandy shore, every light mist in the dark forest, every clearing, and every winged creature is sacred to my people. We are part of the earth, and it is part of us. The fragrant flowers are our sisters. The deer and the mighty eagle are our brothers. The rocky peak, the fertile meadows, all things are connected, like the blood that unites a family.
Welcome to the Mount Kearsarge Indian Museum, Education and Cultural Center, one of the most original museums devoted to Native American culture in this country. Our museum is intended to give you a unique insight into the people that have inhabited North America for many thousands of years and still live here today. The artifacts you will see here are largely the result of a lifetime of collecting by the museum's founder, Charles Bud Thompson, who fell under the spell of American Indian culture at an early age and who, with his wife Nancy, founded the museum in 1991.
When I was a little boy of 7, I was at that time living in the town of Patuxent, Rhode Island, right outside of Providence. Our teacher told us we were going to have a visitor. We little children quickly put our books away. We folded our hands, sat up straight. In the room came this huge Indian, all dressed with his eagle feathers and regalia. I recall he had a beautiful snore-speaking voice, a big, gentle, rugged-looking guy, but certainly not threatening to little children. He told us about his background, his life, and then he said, I want you to do something very special. I want you to get out of a chair. I want you to sit in a big circle in the middle of the floor. Big circle in the middle of the floor. Nobody had ever asked to do that before, but we kids climbed out of a chair. We sat in this big circle. He said, I'm putting you here for a very, very special reason. I'm putting you here because to Indian people, the circle is a most sacred symbol. The circle connects us to everything in life, the rocks, the trees, the birds, the people, connection to the Creator, to God, connection to each other. When you're part of the circle, you belong, you have place, you have purpose, you have position. Everybody's important. He said, keep that in mind. He said, when the Creator made you, he had but one recipe for each one of you. And every one of you has been given a special gift. We call that gift talent. It's up to you to find out what that talent is, use that talent. In doing so, you'll leave this world a better world. Now, he certainly left a long shadow. And as I got older, of course, I began to read everything I could about Indian people. I became absolutely fascinated with Indian people and their culture. And he's the inspiration behind why this museum is here today. His name, by the way, was Chief Sachem Silverstar from the Pequot tribe in Connecticut.
Chief Sachem Silverstar was a respected leader of the Pequot Indians who were living on a small reservation in Stonington, Connecticut. As Chief Sachem for some 27 years, Silverstar guided his people through the Great Depression of the 30s and throughout the war years in America. Silverstar devoted his life to preserve a way of life that has very ancient roots.
Well, I was helping my granddad on his farm in Connecticut. We were hoeing the corn, and it was a hot, scorching hot day, and I went over, took a big drink of cold water out of a jug we had. I went back to pick up the hoe, but I reached down to pick up my hoe. I noticed a strange little stone that looked different than anything I'd seen before. I picked it up, looked it all over, called my granddad to look at it. He came over, turned it around, put on his glasses. He said, you know, son, what you found is an Indian arrowhead dropped here maybe 1,000 or more years ago. Then I remember how he looked out over the hills and fields and said, you know, finding this arrowhead is like a voice from out of the past to tell us that somebody besides us once lived here and loved this land the same as we do today.
The voice that young boy heard was an echo of an ancient people. It was an echo of Silverstar, the living voice of the Pequot, whose words would resonate throughout Bud's life as he collected Indian objects from across the country. In 1991, along with his wife Nancy, he created Mount Kearsarge Indian Museum, a not-for-profit institution dedicated to that timeless voice. Nancy designed the museum space in the shape of a circle, a sacred symbol to Native America and of special significance to Bud and to Silver Star.
The symbol of the circle came to my mind because that is found in all sorts of Indian art. It's very important to indigenous people because it represents life and how there's no beginning and there's no ending. It just keeps going. And I also like the idea of the circle because it promotes a feeling of surprise. You don't see the whole path of the circle until you're actually on the path and proceeding.
Your visit to our galleries is a journey across the American continent, from the eastern woodlands to the great Southwest, on to the South, the plains, the great river valleys, and the Pacific Northwest. It is also a journey from the past into the present.
A long time ago, closer to the time of whiteness, there were beings here in our land. Old Raven.
Native American culture survived and developed over thousands of years through oral history and storytelling.
Remember when you study that New Hampshire history started over 12,000 years ago, and maybe even before that.
We honor that oral tradition in the presentation of our collection.
We didn't want people to go around just reading information on a label beside an artifact, but rather to hear about the philosophy of these people and how they lived with these artifacts and how they used these artifacts. And so we created a museum with a voice, a guided tour.
As you take your tour, listen for the voices of the people who made these artifacts. And not just as Indian voices, not just Abenaki or Navajo, Pueblo or Sioux, but as individuals who saw their world and crafted these things to reflect that world and to express their connection to it. These artifacts are also products of family and community. They were made with materials that were gifts from the earth. These articles give voice to memories and learning, to stories and to prayer. They show us the vision of people who loved the land. Once you have completed the circle, you'll explore our outdoor exhibits. The museum owns over 10 acres at the foot of Mount Kearsarge, some of which is open for you to explore. Visit Medicine Woods, a tranquility zone self-guided trail on land that we reclaimed from a local dumping ground. The trail leads you through a northeastern forest habitat that contains over 100 plants that Indians used for medicine, food, dyes, and building materials. Take a look at Anna's garden, where we're growing ancient varieties of corn and amaranth using traditional methods. And in the adjacent field, examine our teepee and other native structures that are erected on a seasonal basis. We thank you for coming to the Mount Kearsarge Indian Museum and hope that this will be the first of many visits. Your support of the museum helps us to maintain our collections, our gift shop, and research library, as well as our special programs such as school tours, our annual festivals, lectures, demonstrations, and new exhibits. We hope that you will hear some of the many voices that call to us across time and across cultures to unite us on this earth. Your visit here today completes the sacred circle and begins the cycle anew.